I appreciate everyone coming. This is a big day. This has been well prepared for. We're able today to introduce the overall RSL organization and give you some background. So first I want to introduce Elliot Fall, and I'd like to give you a little background on Elliot. Elliot's been here at RSL 12 years. Elliot's a graduate of the University of Utah and Judge Memorial High School. He served in many different capacities here at RSL since 2007. When I got here in 2009, Elliot shepherded me around so I learned the ropes at RSL. He's worked in tandem with Garth Lagerwey through the 2013-2014 session. Whenever I would go in to meet with them during that time, Elliot had all of the statistical, the economic numbers, the salary cap, and there was always a general debate between Elliot and Garth over player quality. They worked in tandem together, and he gained a great deal of experience working with obviously one of the league's best, Garth Lagerwey. In 2014, he went on to be the assistant general manager for 5 years. He's always been the most knowledgeable on salary cap, player negotiation, contracts, options. If you want the details, I just call 1-800-ELLIOT. What are we doing? So Elliot is what we call a product of the RSL ladder. We use that very carefully in all of our meetings, that we're not only growing players, but we're growing administrative talent and coaches within the RSL system. And so Elliot is the premier product with the longest serving technical staff, as we did a long search. We measured 3 times, we looked close, and the joy of this is that how we produce administrative skill sets at RSL proved that Elliot was by far the best candidate that we could offer the job of general manager. So today I want to congratulate both a friend and a very, very talented general manager. I think you're going to find over the years, I love to get in the meetings. He's very talented at trades, acquisition, player relations, and I'd like you to welcome our new general manager, Elliot Fall.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much, Deloy. I couldn't be more excited for the position. It's a club that's been close to my heart for a long time. The only career I've ever had. As Deloy mentioned, I've been here since 2007, and grown up under a lot of special people in a very special environment, and worked with a lot of other special people. I'm proud to represent this club and my community, and take leadership in this organization for years to come, and put some more trophies in that trophy cabinet up there. And with that being said, I'm really excited to announce as well at the same time that Freddie Juarez here to my left will be taking over the head coaching role full-time, permanently. The interim tag will be removed. Freddie's a guy that I've had the great pleasure of working with since he started here. He started in 2010 with our academy, and as we all know, our academy's had great success over the years, and we have 50-plus players playing professionally around the world, and Freddie has played a role in the development of every single one of those players, whether it be on the original staff at the academy, with Greg Vanny and Martin Vasquez, and then becoming the head coach of the Real Monarchs for the inaugural Monarchs season, developing a bunch of our young players there, to moving up to the first team staff, and working under Jeff Cassar and Mike Petke, and now the head coach of Real Salt Lake. So I'd like to welcome him and hand the microphone over to him.
Thank you guys for coming, first of all. Mr. Hansen, thank you. Rob, thank you. Elliot, Dan, for the opportunity. We're excited. We're, a lot of bright minds here that want to have and see the club go forward and achieve what it has at its pinnacle, winning championships and getting back into getting championships. And we're excited of where this place is going and where we think we can take it. We have a very good team that we feel can continue to grow and that are excited to grow. And we're ready for the opportunity. Couldn't ask for much more. I've been with this club for 9 years now, and it's similar to Elliot, where it's, aside from playing, this has been my profession, and I have my heart's been given to this club for the last 9 years at every level, and I want nothing more than to have this club to get to back to where it's used to be, and that's challenging for trophies. So thank you guys for the support that I've had since I've been at the academy. Thank you for the support of coming to support the club today, and we hope to see you there throughout the year and supporting us getting to where I know all of you guys want to get the club to.
I just wanted to add, as we looked at coaches, and we looked very deep, and I've known Freddie now for 10 years. I've seen him through the academy and the championships we've won there, launching the Monarchs and winning in the first year that we were the number one team in the USL under Freddie's leadership, coming on and taking any assignment, be it at the academy, being at the Monarchs, and then stepping in when we needed a transition and being the second winningest coach during his tenure. Now remember, there's 30 teams in this league, and to be number 2 is pretty high up there. That's in the top 5 or 10%. So Freddie took that seamlessly and led us to a home playoff position, number 4. We've had those deep talks. We think we need to tweak a few positions, but we do think we're on the right path already. But our goal is to finish in the top 4 of the West. Everything we're doing, Freddie promised that, or he'd give me one little finger. And I don't think he wants to give up a finger, so I think he's going to finish in the top 4. But we're confident as a team that we have the right player acquisition, transition, and coaching that we can play in the top of the Western Conference. And that is the aspiration that Freddie brings to us. Great strategist, humble man. Players love him. He's adored by anyone who's coached under him because he's clear in what he expects, and he's very strategic in how he breaks a team down. Nothing I like more than sitting there with Freddie showing me how a team's playing out with circles and O's. And he's the best strategist I've known at RSL. So while he may be a little quiet, don't mistake that for a passion to win and a very deep strategic mind. So welcome, Freddie.
But before we make our way over to the other side of the table, I also want to introduce, I'm very, very excited to officially bring Tony Beltran on as Assistant General Manager. As most of you are aware, Tony's a guy who also, this club is all he's ever known as a professional. In a slightly different way. He was a standout player for us for the last 10 plus years, a consummate professional, one of the hardest working guys you'll ever see, and an incredibly bright mind. We're excited for what he's going to add to our technical staff, his ability to assist in all aspects of talent identification, player management, and he can help Freddie on the technical side, and then he will also learn with me the salary cap and league relations side of things. So we're really excited to have Tony on board and think he's going to be a tremendous asset for the club.
Hello, everybody. I have the pleasure of introducing and rounding out our front office, introducing our USL championship-winning general manager, Dan Egner, as the new technical director for the Real Salt Lake Development Ladder. You can give a clap there, too. Dan's from Vacaville, California, undergrad at UCLA. He has a master's in sports management from Southern New Hampshire University. Dan was actually one of my first 5 employees when we built out the Real Monarchs, started on the business side, moved to assistant general manager, then full general manager. During his time with the team, we won both the Supporter Shield and the championship. What Dan's responsibility will be to integrate all player personnel, accounting, tracking, and scouting, and manage the scouting department, build out processes and procedures top to bottom. As Deloy said, the model now is a development ladder. We're looking at the U12s just as much as we're looking at the first team, and the player personnel side needs a director, and that's going to be Dan.
I have a very modest staff. I do want to say a little about Dan. Dan is one that flew under my radar for about a year. I'd see Dan, but Dan was so quietly doing his job, you didn't realize how talented he was. Dan truly is, in the USL, a 32-team league, the most talented general manager. If you sit in a room and you look at how he's able to utilize, the RSL team and support them with training and bringing players down, also taking our 17s and 19s, our academy kids up into the team, and then recruiting a team around that can be a championship level. No other MLS team has even come close to doing what Dan's done. So we stand in a category completely apart. So in our developmental ladder that starts at age 7, we'll hear more about our U12s. Just got back from Atlanta, Georgia, and went 6-0, beat Houston, beat LA, DC. Every MLS team that went up against, our U12s beat. Our U15s did that earlier. Our U17s are virtually undefeated. Our 15s have lost 1, I think. So we have a developmental ladder with great coaches. We looked up today that we now have, when I got to RSL, we had 42 people, not counting players, 64 with players. We now have 67 people, coaches and administration, just in the operations department, and approaching 180 people in the overall organization. We've used among ourselves the RSL ladder. It's almost sacred to us that anyone who's on that ladder, we need to believe they can develop to the next rung. If you think you've stopped at that rung, we probably need to invite you to visit another team, because our ladder should always have people that are able to move to the next rung. So be it players, be it administrators, be it coaches, we totally believe in the concept of growth from within. And 10 years into my tenure here, and 7 years as the sole owner, I'm now seeing the fruits of the academy and that belief in building a ladder. Change will always happen, but if you've grown a group of talented operators, as you can see sitting at this table, it's really easy to stay the course, stay constant, and build a team that is enduring. We plan on winning the USL again next year. Dan has promised me. Something like that. We think we'll play in the top 4 of RSL. We think the changes coming at the Royals will put us into the playoffs, clearly. So when we look at our 3 professional teams, we expect to be playing at the top of each of those leagues. When we come to our academy, we're clearly the Harvard of that academy, and Elliot's been running that for 10 years. He recruited the very best U17 class for the freshmen this year in history. The 20 kids, 11 were national players. We can clearly say that we're the Harvard of soccer academies, and Elliot built that. So you can see people have had various assignments. They've succeeded at those assignments, and they've moved on to higher assignments. I think that's the beauty of RSL. So with that, I welcome all of them into permanent positions and contracts that they need to perform to meet. And we look forward to a lot of success. So if there's any questions, we turn the time over to you for questions.
Go ahead and let us know who you're addressing when you ask a question. We appreciate it.
Elliot, first of all, well, congratulations to all of you guys. Very happy for you guys. Elliot, first, just a question for you about how valuable your time as interim general manager was. Would you have been ready for this position, do you think, the beginning of last year?
The time as interim GM was invaluable. Would I have been prepared a year ago? On some level, you're never fully prepared. You've always got things to learn. There's always growing to do. I think the last year has been one of tremendous growth. And I've learned a lot, especially during that time, the last several months. You know, I guess I would say yes. In a sense, I think I would have been prepared, but I'm more prepared now and ready to go.
You've been fortunate to work with some really talented, work with talented general managers. Is there anything that you learned from them that you want to apply as you take over?
Oh, countless things. As you said, I've had the great fortune of working under some of the brightest minds in soccer here in the U.S., whether it be Garth Lagerwey, Jason Kreis, Bill Manning, Craig Weibel. I've learned countless pieces of knowledge from every single one of them. And you know, I'll look to take all of that I've learned and then some of the beliefs that I have on my own and make the job my own.
Deloy, question for you. Just how important was it to you to find a mutually beneficial spot for Tony, a guy that is endeared by the community and has spent his entire professional career here at Real Salt Lake?
I've never known a Real without Tony. Tony is special in a number of ways. Tony is the consummate gentleman. I've never known Tony to be anything but a gentleman, in control, and the hardest worker. When you logged who runs the most in any game, Tony always was the one that ran the most, 7 miles. When it put in an effort that put him on the national team, all-star team, championship team. He's played in 2 championship matches for us. Unfortunately, he had a career-ending injury. We thought we could bring it back. Tony, to his credit, finally said, this is a time for me to go, but I want to learn from the ground up. Tony's smart. You only spend a few minutes with Tony and you realize how really smart he is. He ran the player relations. He was our representative for the players on RSL. He's invaluable in the locker room, invaluable in player negotiations, smoothing some of those bumps that salaries inevitably create. Tony will be one day a great general manager or executive vice president. We just want to make sure that we grow him in our ladder. But yeah, Tony's amazing. Now I think he needs to say something.
Thank you very much, sir. That's very kind of you. No, first I should thank everybody at the table, especially you, Mr. Hansen, for those kind words and for the trust they've embedded in me in, appointing me assistant general manager. I'm very humbled by the opportunity and excited to be part of this group. Recent history for Real Salt Lake has been times of change and challenge, but the men at this table have steadied the ship. They've carried us through that time, and they're the right men to carry us forward. So I'm just very happy to be part of that group, and I feel very fortunate to be considered for this position and to have the opportunity to move the club forward.
For Deloy in the back here, how much did the way the season ended for Real, making a run into the playoffs, winning a playoff game, how much did that play a factor in deciding to keep Freddie on as permanent head coach now?
Well, when you look at the last 8 games of the regular season and the 2 playoff runs, and you study those closely, and you look at where we improved, the consistency of our team effort through the game, I mean, not up and down and around, but literally we presented consistent efforts. I mean, I look at the first half of Seattle. When we went up in Seattle in a very hostile environment, we held them 0-0 under heavy relenting pressure. We had a great game plan. We had a motivated team, and we had a strategic leader in Freddie. I think we gave Seattle the best game, eventually becoming the national champions, better than Toronto. So when you stand back and you look at it, and you look at how we played against some of these mega teams, that have salaries that exceed us in 20 and 30 million, and we can stand on that field with them and play equal toe-to-toe, that's coaching. It's great players, but it's also a coach that can take those strategic advantages. The thing I know about Freddie is he's steady, he's inspiring, people love to play for him. And that's hard to find in a coach, is when you can find someone that is, coaches are either hated or tolerated or resented or I can do it, but very seldom beloved. So that's an unusual situation to have a coach that players want to play for. And a lot of these academy kids played for him when they were 15. Aaron Herrera, he brought him personally from New Mexico to the academy, and Aaron now is going to be one of the top national players back. So you look 10 years later, Freddie's acquisition has brought us to here. But I have an absolute admiration for Freddie. We've known each other 10 years. We've known each other under every circumstance, and he is the consummate professional, and he represents Real in a way that I'd like to see us represented. We're not loud, we're just good, and that's Freddie. You'll never hear a loud man, but you will find someone who's very strategically good, and that's what we need at this point. Thank you.
I have a question for Elliot or Freddie. You guys have openly spoken about looking at the roster in 2020. If you were to upgrade or prioritize certain position groups, do you have any idea of where you're looking at bringing in more depth?
Sure. Look, I'll kind of give you the cliche answer, but our job is to always improve the roster. We are looking across the board at pieces that can help us improve in different positions. I think one example would be at the goalkeeper spot. We have a legend retiring. Nick Ramondo's the greatest goalkeeper in the history of this league. But we have a couple young guys that we really believe in, and so we'll look to bring somebody in to supplement that group and provide some leadership in that group as well. Across the board after that, I think defensively we were the third best defensive team in the league this year, so we're looking to continue to improve that and improve on that record, and then moving forward, find some pieces that can help us score more goals.
Freddie, I
agrees.
imagine when you took over in the middle of last year, you were maybe a little bit reserved in changes you would make to the club and all that. Now that this is your team going into the preseason, do you envision making a lot of tactical type of changes, or is the way you played the second half of last season, is that a Freddie Juarez team and that's kind of what we'll expect next year?
There was a big portion that was what our staff and I and coaches in the back, we implemented and wanted a style of play. We made some slight tweaks. We talked a lot about it where we wanted to focus on ourselves throughout the year. But yeah, we definitely can add some more. We feel that towards the end of the year we could be more aggressive on the attack. Trying to exploit the opponent's defense a little bit more often and putting them a little bit more in crisis. So that's always the hardest part of the game to teach. Every team is looking for that. They want to be, an exciting team to watch. We definitely want that. But you'll see a team that wants to control the game with the ball, and also be able, when we don't have the ball, that we can control it with the good defensive block, which I think we found what this team is good at, meaning they felt comfortable defending in the block and higher up the park in the middle third. So there won't be a whole lot of changing on that, but we just then got to get a little bit more aggressive in the attacking, and that's something that we'll really focus on.
Freddie, watching you on the training field, very hands-on. Does your role change a little bit? But now that you're the head coach, do you bring in another assistant coach to aid you with that?
The staff we almost completed. We will add another coach to our staff. We were down obviously with what happened for the remainder of the year. But my role is I'd like to be hands-on. That's what I love, being on the field and coaching and coming up with plans and seeing of the stuff that we coach, that kind of players embrace it and carry it out. But yeah, there's going to be times where now my role has changed, where now I have to manage 30 plus players plus a staff, where I might not be able to carry out every single training session, where now some of the assistants will have to take a little bit bigger role in that. That will come and go. As we work, there's times early in the week where the assistants take a little bit more of the coaching, and as we get towards the end of the week, closer to the game, where I take a little bit more charge in that. So we have a good staff that we know how we work, and we're comfortable working with one another.
Freddie, Sam Johnson came off the bench a ton last year. Damir Krylak was thrown all around the pitch. I imagine you've put some consideration into changing the lineup next year? Is there a chance that happens?
Always. We're always looking to get better, so we analyze all of that. Sam was he came off of an injury, never quite fully recovered there towards the end, so we never had the best of him, but we know when Sam's at his best, he scores 9 goals for you. So he's going to continue to grow. He's going to continue to grow. It was a new league for him, new team for him. And yeah, we're always going to look, not just necessarily Sam Johnson, but we're always going to try to put the best player that the team can have success with. And the preseason's always going to show you that.
Julie Jag from the Salt Lake Tribune. Deloitte, this is for you. Why was it important for you to stick with consistency rather than shaking up, and what is the advantage in doing that?
Well, the point is when we look across our 3 professional teams, the Royals, the Monarchs, and RSL, and we look at what our goals are and how close we were to those goals, it's not like a lot of teams in the league. I can name 2 teams that have changed coaches and general administrators 4 years in a row now, and they're playing at the bottom. Consistency matters. Building a team that is consistent will yield better results. We believe in consistency. Just throwing the baby out with the bathwater is definitely not in our DNA. Second, we felt we were knocking on the door in RSL. We think as we finish the tail end of the season under Freddie's leadership, had we had that through the whole year, we could have been number 2. We ended up number 4, got us a home playing field. We beat Portland. We gave Seattle a game of their life. And, we were close. We were knocking on the door, but we want to be number 1 or 2. Then you play on your home field every game, and we're pretty good when you put us on our home field. We are augmenting the staff. Freddie didn't mention that, but we think special, fixed place pieces are more important. We scored 6 of 200. We need to score 12 of 200. So they'll probably add a coaching spot for that specifically prepares us for, fixed place situations. We think that's becoming more and more important. Like you have a goalie coach, we'll have a coach that really strategizes how to make those things work and work effectively. You've seen what it does in American football. We clearly think that's an area we need to grow in. But we're knocking on the door. We're not a team that's failing and needs to throw it out. We clearly aren't. But like I said, we've had $3 million of our salary cap tied up that goes away December 1st, hooray. So we now have an opportunity to really work on those very expensive frontline striking positions, 9s, 10s, wingers, in special ways. So obviously we are. And we've got more capacity, more dollars, more salary cap, so we're excited. Obviously there's a lot in the works. It's kind of fun. It's a dynamic time. But we do think we can improve in those areas and augment an already very good defense. But we need to score in that last third. We know that. All of our thinking goes into that. And Freddie's promised me 6 more fixed place goals. Right, Freddie? That was part of the promise. Okay. So we do feel good, but consistency is always going to be our moniker. We're going to look and we've challenged Freddie. You've got to have assistant coaches that could be coaches, period. So as Freddie takes on the role, he's got to be growing people. We have to believe that our organization is like any great sports organization grows great assistants. And those assistants seamlessly allow you to change as your organization goes forward. And if you watch great teams, they tend to have that. Seattle, their assistant now has led them to 2 championships. So, there's models out there that we think work, and we want to be one of those rare teams that stays to their model and their plan.
Question for Elliot or possibly Deloitte. You've now moved several young players for allocation money or abroad for cash, loan players abroad to Austria. Is that going to be a new revenue stream for the team going forward to help you compete with some of the bigger models or bigger clubs that have more money?
Sure. Yeah, we're always looking for ways to maximize the assets that we have. We through the success of our academy, we have the good fortune of having a large number of homegrown players. Those are very valuable players, very valuable assets for us. But they also have value both around the league and, as you pointed out, globally. And so, we're continuing to develop those pipelines and those pathways. But I would say that we would look to to maximize what we can get out of each of those pathways moving forward.
I'd augment that the math of salary cap says that if you home grow a player, you traditionally pay less than if you had to buy that player in the open market. So let's say we're playing 5 homegrown players, and you are paying $600,000 to $700,000 less, but you've got an equivalent player because of how the homegrown rule works. So we think within a salary cap system, we actually have more resources than virtually any other team, or at least we have in the cap more that we can deal with. Second, as we just announced, one of our great players, Brooks Lennon, created additional allocation money contract, and when you aggregate it, that resource that Brooks, who grew up in our academy, obviously he needed more playing time. Brooks is a great friend. I mean, this is an exciting opportunity for him to grow, and like I said, I'll see you back here in 3 years when you're now the best winger in the league. But that also, we can't keep everyone we grow. We've got to be able to be prepared to take our great players that grow and create additional resources for the rest of the team. But leave no hold. If we see the right strikers, the right offensive talent, we now have more resources than I've ever seen at RSL, and we're looking. Sometimes that comes in the June window because that's when Europe ends. So sometimes you get I've seen great teams that really kind of make that move in June as opposed to January. So we're keeping all our doors open, but with a clear commitment when the right opportunity comes to improve that position, we will move and move aggressively.
Question for Rob. You have the pleasure of working with a lot of these guys day in, day out for the past year, and prior to that when you were here in your first stint. I'm just curious what convinced you that these were the right men for the jobs, and are the things that made them uniquely qualified? I would think the fact that Freddie's been involved from literally the bottom to the top. Elliot's been here for a decade. Dan has worked, these guys have seen the organization, know it inside out.
Yeah, good question. First off, this isn't a, I know these guys, I like them, and I want to keep them around. I'll be honest with you, if I didn't think they're good enough, they wouldn't have the job. But the fact of the matter is, I've known them for a very long time, and from the time I started, we've added, 6 teams if you count the academy coming from Arizona. Then I got the Monarchs done with Elliot's help in 4 months. Craig and I did the same thing with the women's team. We've grown exponentially, but every single one of these people have been here for the growth model. And as Deloitte says, we look at it as a development ladder. We're starting to see success at every single level. U12s won the affiliate GA Cup. We had 2 teams there, one that was a Utah Phoenix team, one that was all of our other affiliates, which our affiliate totals now for kids in our system is 30,000 kids. We now have relationships across these teams, and now we're sending their best kids to our U15s, and we're seeing the product of that. This year in the GA Cup regionals, both of our teams of 15s and 17s are 3-0, right? So Real survives by developing homegrown players. We excel by developing homegrown players. You can see who's starting on our team now. You can see who's out in the world, the Ledesmas, the Sotos. But the job is, I always tell these guys, it's like a boat. You turn the steering wheel, and it's going to take a quarter or 2 quarters to get there, so we have to get ahead of it and plan. Every single one of these guys have been involved with that identity, and it really started with the bosses, pushing us to get there about 3 or 4 years ago, and we're starting to see the fruits of the labor. Well, now it's time for phase 2 of seeing the fruits of those labors to be known as, my hope is to be the best development program in the United States, one of the most effective teams on the field, one of the most successful teams top to bottom, whether you're talking the Academy, the women, the Monarchs, and or RSL. I think the way we've readjusted now with all of these guys is a very straight linear pathway top to bottom on how we're doing that at every level, but you need someone who's been at every level to do that. Fred has, I don't think anybody can compare to the knowledge as he has, is seeing the development pathway, because he's been at every level of the development pathway and now knows how to utilize that. We have Monday meetings where we have every staff member from every team, and the conversations are amazing because Fred can sit there and go, okay, Academy, where are you going? Who's going up? Who's going down? Listens to Tom and Arnold on that. Then he'll talk to Olave and his group. Okay, I want these guys to come down. Olave, what do you need position-wise? So every week is integrated. right? From training to the game on Saturday. So every one of the guys up here has been involved with that. Why wouldn't we push that forward because of the right guys to take those jobs?
Freddie, this is for you. So Deloy said he wants top 4. What do you feel like are the biggest needs that Real Salt Lake needs to make to that you promised?
Well, we've lost some players because at the end of the year you'll lose players. We gotta definitely, when you lose those players, you gotta try to fill them in with better players. And then we'll look at how we're going to fill in some other roles, with looking out of the country, looking inside the league. But I think the biggest thing is the team. The team was, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago, where there was a lot of change in the team, and you could see now in the last 3 years where we've taken steps forward. I mean, at the end of the year in Seattle in the locker room, the biggest thing from the guys, a lot of times they'll answer the question for you, is they know where they need to go. They know we need to take a step forward. Second time we get to this game, we feel we can get better. So they're motivated. That's the first thing we need. When you have a motivated player, you have a motivated squad, then the job becomes a little bit easier. Now that said, yes, we got to go find a couple players that hopefully come in. We're never in a rush because us at RSL, we got to make sure that the player that we bring in is going to come in, is going to adapt to the style, the city, the league, the team, more importantly the team. And that's something that we're, in the last couple of weeks, we've just really been getting together and trying to see how the players that we can identify, looking at a lot of video and seeing what players we're going to bring in and try to help. I can't let you know right now what positions, but I think in the next few weeks you'll start seeing some exciting names coming through.
I actually have a question for Dan or Rob, but first congrats, Dan, on the Cup win and then also now on the new position. So with that being said, I am curious for any of you, or particularly Dan or Rob, do we already have somebody lined up for the GM of the Monarchs?
Yeah, again, I think you're going to see a different model the way we're going to do it. Player personnel, top to bottom, will go through Dan's group with scouting, identification, and initial deal conversations within the cap, guided by Elliot's group. Once we go over to signing and management and dealing with leagues, paperwork, dealing with agents, all that, it'll switch over to Elliot's group for the signature on that. We will have an assistant GM, actually, that will help out on Elliot's side with that, and we'll enhance our scouting department, which will help scout the USL and academies a bit better on that. So we're kind of splitting that USL GM role to reflect more of our development ladder going forward. You want to add anything to that?
Yeah. So and this will be rolled out in the next couple of weeks, we have kind of a new, not really a new department, but a lot of new faces in a department that'll be on my side that we're all up here really excited about. But that being said, everyone within that department will be helping construct and identify talent for the rosters for, all 5 teams. So when you talk from RSL to Monarchs down to our academy. So we're excited about that. We think that we have a system in place that's really going to work for us and that we're all comfortable with. I can tell you on both sides for professional teams, RSL and Monarchs, we've been at work for a long time and been going about business, however anything was going to shake out. So we think that we're well on our way for both teams to help identify the pieces that we're looking for, and that we think will get us in the top 4 with RSL, and hopefully our friend up there is going to have another friend next year, hopefully. So.
Sorry about the trophy. With that, we'll wrap everything up. We'll have everyone up here available for one-on-ones at the backdrop on the back of the wall there after a brief photo session. So thanks everyone for joining us, and congratulations.